Okay, welcome back to part 2 of the digestive system. So here in this picture, we can see the esophagus right here. And then here's the diaphragm. So the esophagus passes through the diaphragm right there, and that is called the esophageal hiatus. And so it goes through there, and then it empties into the stomach, and then duodenum, small intestine, large intestine. So we'll go through all of that, but right there, just know that that is the esophageal hiatus. Okay, moving on. We're going to do a little review here. And so right here we can see the abdominal pelvic cavity. And so the difference between that and the peritoneal cavity is kind of tricky to understand and remember. So we're just going to go over that real quick. So we have the serous membrane, which is called the visceral peritoneum, and that covers all of these organs. It would cover the liver up here, all of the organs. And then we have the parietal peritoneum, and that covers the abdominal wall. And so the peritoneal cavity does not hold any organs like the abdominal pelvic cavity does. And so it is just the potential space between the two peritoneal membranes. That is the peritoneal cavity. So just to make that clarified. Okay, we also see in this picture, we have the root of the mesentery right here. And so the mesentery attaches to the small intestines and just kind of anchors it back to the posterior abdominal wall. Right here we see the mesocolon, and that kind of does the same thing for the large intestine. So that would be there, and it runs along all of that. Okay, moving on from this picture here. Okay, so we have the stomach here. So it goes through the esophagus into the stomach, and then it goes down through the pyloric sphincter into the duodenum. So you can see that part right here. You can also see it in this picture here. So this whole part is the duodenum. So that is the first part of the small intestine. Then it empties into the jejunum and then the ileum. And so there's not quite a distinct separation between these two. So it just kind of goes duodenum and then jejunum up here and then passes down into the ileum. So if you can imagine like this imaginary line type thing right there, and then goes down into the large intestine. So over here we can see this area up close and with a little thing pulled off. And so this is the ileum, and it empties into the large intestine here. And so this part of the large intestine is called the cecum. So this valve right here is the ileocecal valve, and then goes to the large intestine there. So with the large intestine, there's a few different parts. So we have the ascending, and then we have the transverse, and then we have the descending right here on this side over here. So we go ascending, and then there's also two different flexures. So we have the hepatic flexure on the right side, and then over here we have the splenic flexure. And then it goes back down. So back to this picture up here, we can see the descending colon, and then we go into the sigmoid colon, and that's right here. And so the way that I remember this is the S. It kind of looks like an S, so S for sigmoid. And then it goes down to the rectum, and then the anal canal, and then the anus, which would be down there. So where the small intestine empties into the large intestine, we also have this structure that's hanging off right here. And this is called the vermiform appendix, which is what you know is just your appendix. This is what can be inflamed and can burst and cause issues. Okay, for the large intestine, there's a few other parts to that we need to know. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Oh, maybe. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this line that runs along there, that is what we call the Tenier coli. So it's that white band that runs along. And then we have different separations within the large intestine. You can see that it's kind of bubbled and bulged. Each one of these is called a haustra. So it's a haustra. And then this is like the anatomical structure. This is like the best one ever. So these things that are hanging off right here, those are called epiploic appendages, and they're just so fun to say. So say it with me, ready? Epiploic appendages. And so I wish I could show you these on the cadaver because they are just so bright yellow. It's just seriously these smooth circular tags of fat, and they just run along all of the large intestine. So those are fun. Okay. Now we are on to the liver. So here, let me zoom out. There we go. Okay, so here we can see our liver. This part over here is what we call the right lobe. This over here is the left. This right here is your gallbladder that's hanging down. And this thing that comes down right there is what we call the falciform ligament. Then there's this little part right here, and sometimes it hangs off, and it is called the round ligament. It's also known as ligamentum teres, so those are interchangeable, and they're both correct. More with the liver is down here. And so there's actually 4 lobes. So over here, we can see the left, and here's the right again. And this part right here is what we call the quadrate lobe, and this up here is called the caudate lobe. And so those are very similar, so just make sure that you get the separation there. This one was with the C, and this one was with the Q. So maybe Q hangs down with the gallbladder. I don't know. Okay, but caudate and quadrate. Make sure you get those distinctions, right? Okay, and then we have what is called the biliary apparatus. So, let me get... Okay, so we can see that really well here. So what you're looking at here is the liver up here, and this is your pancreas, which also the pancreas, let me go over that. So the head is over here, this is the body, and then the tail runs towards the spleen, which is this structure right here. Again, the gallbladder, and this would be the duodenum. So coming back here, this is the same thing, just in a little different of a model. We see the right and left hepatic ducts, and those come together to the common hepatic duct, which would be this part right here. So right and left, and then that comes down here into the common hepatic ducts. And then we see this come together with the common bile ducts. There's a common bile duct right down there. This one up here is the cystic ducts. So the cystic duct and the common hepatic duct comes together to the common bile duct. And then this one right here is the pancreatic duct. That one comes down in here. These form together, and it comes into the duodenum in a structure called the major duodenal papilla. So to go over this one more time, we have the left and the right hepatic ducts. These come together to form the common hepatic duct. This over here is the cystic duct. That comes together to form the common bile duct. This is the pancreatic duct, and those two come together and empty into the duodenum, which through what is known as the major duodenal papilla. So there is that structure there. Here is the back side of the structure, which you should have, I think, went over with the artery and vein unit, but we'll go over it again. So up here would be our liver. This part right here that comes down is the hepatic portal vein. This right here is the splenic vein. This right here is the superior mesenteric vein, and then inferior mesenteric vein. Okay, so one more time, we have the hepatic portal vein, splenic vein, the superior mesenteric vein, and inferior mesenteric vein. So we always kind of draw this as like a chair right here with just like a footrest coming out. So there is that for you. And that is all for the digestive system. So if you have any questions on this, let me know, and I will get the other ones up also.